Okay, go.
Just want to start today with a trigger warning disclaimer. This podcast contains descriptions of death and drowning. Hi, I'm Katie Carpenter.
I'm Terry Kovanitz.
We apologize for any and all mistakes today as we begin this episode of Titanic Transcripts.
Mr. Lightoller, are you familiar with the ship's crew of the Titanic when she left Southampton and at the time of the accident?
You are speaking of the seaman, are you, sir?
Yes.
Well, yes, sir.
Have you ever known Lewis Klein?
Not amongst the seamen.
Was there such a member of the crew of the Titanic?
I'm given to understand that there was one man named Klein who was a second-class barber. That man is personally known to me. He's the only Klein who was on board, so far as I know.
Did he survive?
He did not.
Who was the barber? Do you recall him by name?
Klein?
No, I do not mean him. This was the assistant Klein, the man you speak of. I want to know who the barber was. Who was the principal barber on that ship?
The first-class barber?
Yes.
I forget his name, sir.
Do you know whether he survived?
He did not.
I would like to have you be very sure of that, sir.
Of which, sir?
Of the last statement. Will you kindly make yourself very certain of that? I am in communication with the first-class barber, who is an American, and the only American, I believe, who was on your crew. And I would like to have you think over whether there was more than one first-class barber, so that we have no conflict about this man.
Well, to the best of my knowledge and belief, the first-class barber was not saved, unless I've been misinformed. I'm very sorry, sir. I do see here that the first-class barber is here.
And what is his name?
Whitman or Whiteman?
Whitman?
Yes, that's correct.
I have just been handed by a surviving passenger a memorandum, and he said that this barber is now at Palmyra, New Jersey. Would you like to correct your statement in that respect?
Yes, I would. The first-class barber evidently is a survivor.
But you are positive that the only Klein in the crew did not survive?
He did not survive, to the best of my knowledge and belief.
Did you see a man here in my office this week who claimed to be Lewis Klein, a surviving member of the crew of the Titanic?
I believe that I did, sir.
And have you ever seen him before?
Never.
Could he have been the stowaway who was found in one of the lifeboats?
I really could not say, sir. I know the man that Senator Smith speaks of as being in his office, and I certainly never saw him before.
You recall that the stowaway referred to as having sneaked into the boat with a shawl and a dress on, that he had a broken arm. This man you saw in my office did not have a broken arm, did he?
Not as far as I could see, sir.
Do you know who made up the list of the surviving members of the crew?
I made up the list for the seamen, and Hardy, the assistant second-class steward, made up a list for the victualizing department.
Was any list made on the Carpathia of the survivors of the crew?
Yes.
And you feel that you have an accurate list?
I feel that I have. I went through all the seamen and firemen personally. The stewards, I left to Mr. Hardy to identify.
Is Mr. Hardy here?
We can get him in a few minutes. He has gone to his hotel.
I would like to have Mr. Hardy called, and I would like to ask you if you have filed with the committee a complete list of the surviving members of the crew as requested.
No, sir. Not the complete list. Not that I remember. I've given it to 2 or 3, but I do not know whether I gave it to the committee.
Will you kindly supply the committee with a complete list?
Yes, of course.
And I would like it, if possible, during the day.
I will have it done at once.
And I would like to have it indicate the vocation of each?
Exactly.
And, if possible, give the full name of each?
Yes.
And his place of residence?
Yes, sir.
And I will excuse you now to go collect that information while I call Captain James Henry Moore to the stand. Now, where do you reside, Captain?
Liverpool, sir.
And what is your business?
I am master of the steamship Mount Temple, sir.
And your business is that of a navigator or mariner?
A navigator, yes, sir.
And how long have you been engaged in that business?
I have been going to sea for 32 years, sir.
How much of that time in the North Atlantic?
27 years, sir.
Are you familiar with ice and icebergs?
Yes, sir.
Tell the committee what you know about ice and icebergs and the prevalence of ice in the North Atlantic.
Well, an iceberg is a piece of ice broken away from a glacier up in the Arctic regions. It may be composed of anything, ice, rocks, or anything it can gather up on its way to sea.
Do you know how much of an iceberg is submerged?
It's generally supposed that 7/8 of it is submerged, sir.
What is the largest iceberg you have ever seen?
I could not say just at the moment, but I dare say I have seen them 300 or 400 feet long and about the same height, sir.
Did you notice the National Capitol when you came up here this morning? Did you notice that building?
Yes, but it would be hard to judge from that, sir. I dare say I've seen some larger than that, but I'm giving that as a conservative size.
Do you know any manner or method of obtaining information regarding the proximity of vessels at sea to icebergs other than by actual vision?
We usually take the temperature of both the air and the water, sir.
And what does that indicate?
If we are approaching an ice field, the chances are that the temperature will go down. But when approaching an iceberg, it does not make any difference whatever, sir, except you get very, very close to it.
Have you ever heard of the practice of sounding the steam whistle in order to get an indication as to whether or not an iceberg's ahead?
I do not think that's generally done. I've never tried it, but I have tried it when I've been near high cliffs.
And what was the result?
You do sometimes get an echo back, sir.
And what does that indicate?
That you are close to something that is obstructing the waves of sound.
And what is the purpose of taking the water and testing it on a voyage?
We take it right along, sir. We have logs we make up for the Hydrographic Office in Washington, sir, and we also have them for the British Geographical Society, sir, the British Meteorological Society, and we supply them with all those data. We give them the barometer and the thermometer, the temperature of the water, and all such things as that, sir.
I believe you said the temperature of both the water and the air might indicate the presence of field ice?
Yes, sir.
But not necessarily the presence of a floating iceberg.
No, sir, because a large field of ice, I think, would make some difference in the temperature. But just a solitary berg, without you super close to it, I do not think it makes any difference at all. In fact, I tried it several times, and I did not find any difference. I do not think it indicates the presence of an iceberg, but it will indicate the presence of a large body of ice, such as an ice field.
From your experience and observation, have you ever heard explosions from icebergs?
No, sir.
Have you seen icebergs both by day and by night?
Yes, sir.
What is their color by day?
White, sir.
And what is their color by night?
It just depends which way you have the light, sir.
Oh, suppose you merely have the skylight.
Then they will show up white, sir, white and luminous.
And suppose you have moonlight?
Well, it just depends on which way you have the moon, whether at the back of the iceberg or not, sir.
Do they at any time look black?
Yes, sir.
Under what circumstances?
When you have the light behind them from you, sir.
That is at night?
At night, sir.
Where's your vessel now?
She's on her way to Halifax, sir.
Where were you and your vessel on Sunday, April 14 last?
At 12:30 on...
Give the date.
The 15th, sir. I was in latitude 41.25 and longitude 51.15, sir. I believe that is correct.
What time of day was that?
At 12:30 a.m.
Was it New York time or ship's time?
That was ship's time, sir. Excuse me. It says on the memorandum here that I was 41.25 north and 51.41 west. That was my position.
And what hour was this in the morning?
12:30 a.m., sir.
Ship's time?
Ship's time.
What date was that?
The 15th.
Kindly give the longitude at that time.
The longitude was 51.14 west.
When was your ship's clock set?
At noon the day before, sir.
That would be Sunday?
Yes, sir. Or rather, before noon. It was during what they call the forenoon watch, sir.
I would like to have you tell in your own way what, if anything especially, occurred on that voyage of yours on Sunday and Monday. Just tell what you did, what you saw, and where you saw it.
At 12:30 a.m. on the 15th, I was awakened by the steward from my sleep with a message from the Marconi operator, sir.
On your ship?
On my ship, yes, sir. I immediately switched on the light and took a message that the operator sent up to me, which said that the Titanic was sending out the CQD message, and in the message it said, iceberg.
Have you the message?
Yes, sir.
Just read it, please.
Titanic sends...
Okay, but kindly give the dateline, if any, the hour, if any, and to whom that message is addressed, if to anyone.
It was a general message, sir. Titanic sends CQD, requires assistance. Position 4144 north, longitude 5024 west. Come at once, iceberg.
And who signed that, if anybody?
This is just a message that he picked up, sir. He happened to hear it. He was sending this up at once to me.
Can you file that with a reporter?
Yes, sir.
Did you make any reply to that message?
None whatever. We did not want to stop the messages from going out, sir. He makes a remark at the bottom, can't hear me.
On this message?
Yes, sir. You will see it on the bottom there, can't hear me.
And what is the initial under that?
That is my operator, sir.
What did you do after receiving this message?
I immediately blew the whistle on the bridge. I have a pipe leading down from the bridge, and I blew the whistle at once, and told the second officer to put the ship on North 45 East, sir, and to come down at once, and I informed him what was the matter, and I told him to get the chart out. When I was sufficiently dressed, I went up to my chart room, and we computed where the ship was, and we afterwards steered east by compass.
Did you make any progress in your movements?
We turned her right around at once, sir, and when he came down, we took the chart out and found out where the Titanic was and steered her by the compass north 65 east true.
In the direction of the Titanic?
In the direction of the Titanic, yes, sir. After I was sufficiently dressed, I went down to the chief engineer and told him that the Titanic was sending out messages for help. And I said, go down and try to shake up the fireman, and if necessary, give him a trot of rum if you think he can do any more. I believe this was carried out. I also told him to inform the firemen that we wanted to get back as fast as we possibly could.
Now, at the time that you got this message from the Titanic, judging from the position that vessel was, and your position, 4144 north, longitude 5024 west, how far did you estimate the Titanic was at that time from your vessel?
Before we had laid the course off, I received another position, which read 4146 north, 5014 west. So that was 10 miles further to the eastward, and it was that position that I laid my course for.
After satisfying yourself as to her position, how far was the Titanic from your vessel?
About 49 miles, sir.
After you got well underway, what speed were you making?
I should imagine perhaps 11.5 knots. Of course, perhaps she would have a little of the Gulf Stream with her, too.
And what occurred then?
At about 3 o'clock, we began to meet the ice, sir.
And where? From what direction?
We were passing it on our course. We met ice on our course. I immediately telegraphed to the engine room to stand by the engines, and we double lookouted and put the fourth officer forward to report if he saw any ice coming along that was likely to injure us, or in fact any ice at all.
You say you doubled the lookout?
Yes, sir.
Let us get into the record exactly what you mean by that.
Well, before this we had only one man on the lookout, sir.
One man in the crow's nest.
One man in the crow's nest, and we put another man on the forward bridge, and the fourth officer we put on the forecastle head, so if the ice was low down, he perhaps could see it farther than we could on the bridge.
Did you take any other precautions to avoid danger or accident?
Not at that time, sir. We had the lookout, and the engines were at standby, sir.
So you were simply protecting yourself against ice at that time?
That is all, sir.
And you had stopped your boat?
Oh, no, sir. We only had the engines at standby.
Were you stopped at any time?
We were stopped, yes.
So I understand you.
At 3:25 by our time we stopped.
Where were you then? In what position was your ship?
I should say we were then about 14 miles off the Titanic's position.
Can you tell me just what your position was? Did you take it?
I could not. I could not take any position. There was nothing. I could not see.
So you judged you were, 14 miles from the Titanic?
That is what I estimate.
And what time was that?
At 3:25 o'clock.
Was it dark or was day breaking?
It was dark then, sir.
Okay, so what did you do then?
I stopped the ship. Before that, I want to say that I met a schooner or some small craft, and I had to get out of the way of that vessel, and the light of that vessel seemed to go out.
The light of the schooner seemed to go out?
The light of the schooner, yes. When this light was on my bow, a green light, I starboarded my helm.
The schooner was between you and the Titanic's position?
Yes, sir.
And in your track?
She was a little off our bow, and I immediately starboarded the helm and got the two lights green to green, sir.
Was this schooner coming toward you?
I was steering east, and this green light was opening to me.
Was he evidently coming from the direction in which the Titanic lay?
Somewhere from there, sir. Of course, had he been coming straight, he would have shown me his two lights, sir.
I've been informed that a derelict schooner was in the sea in that vicinity that night without anyone aboard her. Can you tell me whether or not this schooner was inhabited?
I could not say, sir. All I could see was the lights. It was dark.
You saw a light on the schooner?
A light on the schooner, yes, sir.
And where was that light?
I could not say where the light was on the schooner, but I dare say...
Whether it was fore or aft?
No, I could not say.
The light, however, would indicate that it was inhabited.
At that time, yes, sir.
You had no communication with any person or did not see any person on that schooner yourself?
Oh, no, sir. It was quite dark.
And how much nearer the Titanic's position do you think that schooner was than your boat at the time you had...
I should say this light could not have been more than a mile or a mile and a half away, because I immediately put my helm hard to starboard, because I saw the light, and after I got the light on the starboard bow, then the light seemed to suddenly go out. I kept on, and then the quartermaster must have let her come up toward the east again, because I heard the foghorn on the schooner. He blew his foghorn, and we immediately put the helm hard to starboard, and I ordered full speed astern and took the way off the boat.
You think the schooner was within a short distance of the Titanic?
I thought she was within a short distance of us, because I put the engines full astern to avoid her.
Now, let us see if we understand one another. How far was this schooner from you?
Well, I should think at the time we could not have been so far apart. I could not judge, because you cannot judge by a light at sea.
Well, at 3:25, you think you were 14 miles away from the Titanic.
Yes, sir.
At about this time, you saw this schooner.
Oh, no. It was just shortly after 3 o'clock when I saw the schooner, sir.
That is what I say, about 3:25.
No, just shortly after 3 o'clock. I saw the schooner. That was before I stopped her on account of the ice getting so thick, sir. As a matter of fact, I did not stop her altogether. I simply stopped the engines and let the way run off the ship and then proceeded slowly.
One light, you said, was on the schooner?
One light. I just saw the one light. He would have his starboard light open to me.
And what did you do then, after the schooner passed and got out of the way?
I put her on her course again, sir.
I want to be certain that the schooner was as near the Titanic as I thought I understood you to say it was.
I should say the schooner from the position of the Titanic would be perhaps 12.5 to 13 miles.
Exactly. And from you at the same time?
At that time it would be farther off because it was 3:25 when I stopped the ship. I reckon it was shortly after 3 o'clock. I could not give the times because I did not take them, but at 3:25 I was 14 miles off. This was shortly after 3 o'clock when I met the schooner and had to starboard to get out of the way. That meant I starboarded about 2 points.
And about how fast was that schooner moving?
He could not have been moving very fast.
Like how fast? Just give your best judgment.
Well, I dare say she would be making a couple knots an hour. Sometime after that, the breeze sprang up and we had quite a fresh breeze.
So the schooner came from the direction of the Titanic's position.
Fairly well, sir. You see, I was going north 65 degrees east, and he angled a bit to the south, because if he had come directly from the other, of course, he would have shown me two lights, sir.
What I'm trying to get at is this. One or two of the ship's officers of the Titanic say that after the collision with the iceberg, they used the Morse signals and rockets for the purpose of attracting help, and that while they were using these rockets and displaying the Morse signals, they saw lights ahead, or saw lights, that could not have been over 5 miles from the Titanic. What I'm seeking to develop is the question as to what light that was that they saw.
Well, it may have been the light of the tramp steamer that was ahead of us, because when I turned, there was a steamer on my port bow.
Going in the same direction?
Almost in the same direction. As he went ahead, he gradually crossed our bow until he got on the starboard bow, sir.
Did you see that ship yourself?
I saw it myself. I was on the bridge all the time.
Did you communicate with it by wireless?
I do not think he had any wireless. I'm sure he had no wireless because in the daylight I was close to him.
And how large a vessel was it?
I should say a ship of about 4,000 or 5,000 tons.
And how large a vessel is the Mount Temple which you command?
6,661 tons register.
And the Mount Temple is one of the fleet of the Canadian Pacific Railway?
Yes, sir.
Did you come close enough to that ship to which you have just referred to determine what she was?
As to her name, sir?
Her name?
No, I did not get her name.
Or her character?
I think she was a foreign ship, sir. She was not English. I do not think she was English, because she did not show her ensign.
Do you know the vessel Helig Olav?
No, sir.
Have you seen that vessel since you saw her early that morning Monday?
I saw her until after 9 o'clock, sir.
But had no communication with her?
Had no communication with her. We were trying to pick him out in the signal book, and we were trying to signal with him because I think he was under the impression that I was going to the eastward, that I was bound to the eastward. And I think when I turned back after we both stopped, when we found the ice too heavy, he followed me. Because when I turned around after finding the ice too heavy to the southward, after I went to the southward later in the morning, when it got daylight, and I went down to where he was, thinking perhaps I had gotten to a thin spot. When I got there, he had stopped. He had found the ice too heavy. I went a little farther, and I turned around because it was getting far too heavy to put the ship through. But that would be at about 5, perhaps 5:30 in the morning, sir.
You have no means of determining what the name of that vessel is or what the name of the commander is.
I had no communication with him whatsoever, sir.
Were you close enough to see whether her funnel was of any specific color?
If I can remember rightly, it was black, with some device in a band near the top.
And you have never seen her since that night?
I have not seen her since the morning I saw her, 9 o'clock in the morning, because she followed me right around this ice pack, you know, sir.
Did you get any nearer the Titanic's position given you in the wireless CQD message than the point you have just mentioned?
At 3:25, I stopped the engines and then went slowly to avoid the ice because it was too dark to proceed at full speed on account of the ice.
Did you reach the Titanic's position?
I reached the Titanic's position. I reckon I was very close to that position, either that position or very close to it, at 4:30 in the morning, sir.
Was there any other vessel there at the time?
None except the tramp, sir.
Except the tramp that cut across
cut across my bow. I could see him then. He was a little to the southward of me, but ahead of me, sir.
When you were at that point, what did you do and what did you see?
I saw a large ice pack right to the east of me, sir, right in my track right in my course.
How large?
In consulting my officers as to the breadth of this, one said it was 5 miles and another said it was 6 miles.
And about how wide was it?
That was the width of it.
Oh, okay. How long was it?
Of course, it extended as far as the eye could reach, north and south, sir.
20 miles or more?
I should say 20 miles, perhaps more than that. It was field ice and bergs.
Oh, bergs also?
Yes, the bergs interspersed in the pack, sir, and boulders.
And how many bergs were there?
I should say altogether, there must have been between 40 and 50, I counted that morning.
And varying in size?
Yes, varying in size.
And from what?
Some were very long and square, but very low in the water. Others were high and of various shapes.
How high was the highest, the largest one?
I should say fully 200 feet high, sir.
Do you know the height of the Titanic from the water's edge?
On my boat, when she's light, it is about 50 feet from the waterline to my bridge.
Well, the Titanic, according to the testimony, was 70 feet from the waterline. And you say this largest iceberg that you saw was 200 feet above the waterline?
About that, I should think, sir.
How far were they from you?
We got near to several of them, sir.
How near?
Not more than a mile or so off, sir.
Did you become apprehensive when they got that close?
Not a mile, sir, no.
You could see farther away than a mile.
Yes. In some cases, you may get close to them. In others, they have long spurs running underneath the water. In daytime, clear water, you can see the spurs because they show quite green underneath the water. Of course, my orders to my officers are to give them a wide berth, not to take any chances whatsoever.
The night that you doubled your lookout, did you use glasses in the crow's nest or have a searchlight or anything of the kind?
No, sir.
Do you ever use glasses in the crow's nest?
Never, sir.
You use them on the bridge?
Yes, sir. Every officer has his own glasses, and then the ship provides glasses besides.
Have you ever been in the North Atlantic on a vessel equipped with searchlights?
No, sir.
I should like your judgment as to whether or not searchlights in darkness and in fog would prove an advantage in detecting icebergs in your path.
In fog, they're utterly useless, sir.
And in clear weather?
If you had a very powerful projector, it might be of some use, but in fog, it would just be like throwing a light on a blank wall.
Have you ever been aboard a British battleship or any ship of the British Navy?
Not for many years, sir.
Have you ever been aboard any ship that found a buoy with a searchlight?
No, sir.
Do you know if it's not customary in tortuous channels to search out objects like buoys marking the course in the river or sea with searchlights?
I've never had any experience. Of course, I know they use the searchlights in the Suez Canal.
And how do you know that?
Just from conversations with others, and I have heard from my officers who have been through the Suez Canal.
They rely on the searchlight to quite a considerable extent in going through the Suez Canal, do they not?
Yes, but the ships are going very slowly, sir.
You know the British naval vessels are equipped with searchlights.
Yes, I have seen them very often when I've been going up the English Channel. I've seen them very often using those, sir. I should say a very powerful light would be of use in an ice pack, sir, provided there was no fog.
Now, I want to go back to the scene of the Titanic collision for a moment. When you arrived at the Titanic's position, it was along after 4 in the morning?
4:30, sir. That is, I reckoned we were at that position at 4:30, sir.
Monday morning?
Yes, sir.
After the wreck?
Yes, sir.
And what did you see there, if anything?
I saw nothing whatsoever, sir.
Any wreckage from the Titanic?
I saw nothing, but I saw this tramp steamer, sir.
No wreckage?
Nothing whatsoever, sir, in the way of wreckage.
Any floating corpses?
Nothing at all, sir.
Any abandoned lifeboats?
Nothing whatever, sir.
Any floating bodies?
Nothing whatever, sir.
How long did you stay in that position?
We searched around to see if there was a clear place we could go through, because I feared the ice was too heavy for me to push through it. Of course, I reckoned I was somewhere near, if not at, the Titanic's position that he gave me, which afterwards proved correct, when I got observations in the morning, sir. I searched for a passage to get through this pack, because I realized that the Titanic could not have been through that pack of ice, sir. I steered away to the south-southeast true, because I thought the ice appeared thinner down there, sir. When I got down, I got within about a mile or so of this other ship, which had already stopped, finding the ice was too strong for it to go through.
And what did you do after discovering that there was no wreckage nor any service you could render?
When I found the ice was too heavy, I stopped there and just turned around, slowed down, and stopped her, and searched for a passage, and I could not see any passage whatever, sir. I had a man pulled up to the masthead in a bow line, right to the foretop masthead, and I had the chief officer at the main masthead, and he could not see any line through the ice at all that I could go through.
Some passengers on your vessel Sunday night, about midnight, claimed to have seen these rockets from the decks of the Titanic. Have you heard anything about that?
I have read it in the papers, sir, but as a matter of fact, I do not believe there was a passenger on deck at 12 o'clock at night. I'm positive because they would not know anything at all about this, and you may be sure that they would be in their beds. I know the steward tells me there was nobody on deck, that is, the night watchman at the aft end. At the forward end, there was nobody on the deck. The man in what we call the permanent steerage that passes under the bridge deck, we have a permanent steerage there, and the other, of course, is a portable one we can take down, and nobody saw a passenger on deck, sir.
You were on the bridge immediately following the warning?
Yes, sir, I was on the bridge.
And the danger call?
Yes, sir.
Did you make an effort to see this vessel or its lights or signals?
Oh, yes, sir. I had all the officers on deck as soon as ever we turned around. I sent down and got all the officers and crew out, and we commenced to swing the boats out.
And you got ready to give assistance?
We had the gangway ready for lowering, and we had ladders ready to put over the side, and we had ropes with riggings in the ends to lower over. We had lifeboats and lifebelts, and everybody was on hand, and everything was all made and ready along the deck.
Now, how many lifeboats did you have?
20, sir.
What was the passenger capacity of your vessel?
We could accommodate about 1,000 in the lifeboats.
About 1,000 in the lifeboats.
Yes, sir.
How many could you accommodate in the Mount Temple comfortably?
With the 20 boats, sir, we reckoned we could accommodate 1,000 people in them.
I guess we do not understand each other. I want to know if you can tell me what the passenger capacity of the Mount Temple is. How many people is she arranged to accommodate?
There's no permanent arrangement.
Is it a passenger boat?
She's not really what you call a passenger boat. We're an immigrant ship. We simply have passenger accommodations permanently for about 160 passengers and 6 in the second cabin.
How many in the second cabin?
6. We have 2 rooms.
2 rooms in the second cabin.
That is our saloon.
And accommodations for about 160 passengers.
160 permanent, sir.
And you carry 20 lifeboats?
Yes, sir.
Besides the life belts?
Yes, sir.
Were those lifeboats the standard lifeboats?
Yes, sir.
Or were they collapsible?
There were only 2 collapsible boats, sir.
Were there any emergency boats?
Yes, sir.
How many?
There are 4 on the lower deck.
Besides those 20?
Those are included in the 20.
And the 2 collapsibles?
And the 2 collapsibles.
And altogether, your emergency boats, collapsibles, and lifeboats number 20.
Yes, sir.
How did you happen to have just 20?
There are 8 pairs of davits on each side. we had 2 aft inside of the others, inside of the ones under the davits, and there were 2 collapsible boats on the boat deck amidships.
My question was directed to whether or not the 20 lifeboats you carried on the Mount Temple, with a passenger capacity of 160 people, were in accordance with the regulations of the British Board of Trade.
Yes, sir. We had more than our requirements from the British Board of Trade. That is, for the tonnage of the ship.
So if any accident had happened to your vessel, such as happened to the Titanic, on a clear, calm night with no sea, you had ample accommodations to...
No, sir.
One moment, please. You had ample accommodations on the Mount Temple for your passengers, had you?
No, sir.
How many would these lifeboats hold?
About 50. I'm giving on the permanent accommodation, sir. We had 1,461 steerage passengers.
Well, I was coming to the steerage, and I was coming to the crew.
Oh, yes, sir.
But I was talking at this moment about the passengers. You could have cared for the passengers first class and second class.
No, we had no first class, sir.
Well, what are the 160?
That is 166 we had permanent accommodations for. We call that the permanent steerage.
And in addition to that, you had your steerage accommodations below deck.
Below deck, yes.
And your crew.
And the crew, sir.
And how many compose the crew?
About 130, sir.
What will the steerage accommodate?
We expected to have 2,200 steerage passengers, but instead of that, we had only 1,461. But we were fitted up for 2,200.
And you had 20 lifeboats?
Yes, sir. We had 22 lifeboats when we left London, so we would have 2 extra boats on board, sir.
And you've given the capacity of your boats for passengers, steerage, and crew, and that would include carrying the immigrants?
Yes, sir.
Okay, the senator stops this line of questioning here, so we're going to pause until next round. This one's a bit weird. It's like 2 separate conversations, or they're not conversing with each other. It's like,
It's just so clear that Senator Smith doesn't know anything about being at sea.
No. Clearly. And they're just so, like, the repeated questions.
Oh, my goodness. Could you give the date, the time, the date?
Wait, tell me the date. Yeah, over and over.
He can't even get a syllable out without, wait, give the date, wait, give the time. And then what time was it?
Exactly.
And what day?
But what day?
And what time?
What happened on the 15th? You didn't give the date. Yeah, and way to create a hostile witness with the whole, you're busted on the Klein thing that...
Yeah.
Ask you, are you sure? Do you sure you don't want to take that back?
I'd like you to be really sure of that. I mean, how many people,
right.
he's recalling from, 1,000 people or something.
And day 9 after this.
Yeah. So they're still all shaken up, and they keep calling Lightoller back. This is like his 4th time just to answer a couple questions. And
you're speaking in riddles.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, so the Louis Klein thing, I cannot remember if we've talked about it before, so please forgive me if I'm repeating stuff. Because when we started to read this one, it sparked a little bit of a memory, but I am a moron, so I looked it back up, and Louis Klein is the one who alleged that Murdoch was drunk at the wheel. But Louis Klein, there's no record of Louis Klein as a crew on the ship. He also could not read or write English, so a lot of officials said, there's no way that the British Board of Trade would give him a license to be a seaman. He himself said that he had no papers no employment papers from the Titanic.
Oh, so draw attention to someone else, and
he made his accusations in Ohio, and then was taken to was it New York or Washington, wherever they're doing sorry, I said I'm a moron, but he was taken to the inquiry.
You want a trip to New York City.
And then he mysteriously disappeared. So he was in Senator Smith's office, and then, sorry, spoiler, Senator Smith doesn't call him to he never recalls him. But this must be when they're trying to find him because he disappeared, and he's asking Lightoller, who is this guy?
Didn't he break his arm? Well, did he have a broken arm?
And there's
just so
a book called Titanic Imposters. That sounds kind of interesting. And of course, he's in the book, so maybe we can find that and read it and see a little bit more about him. Because I do remember it being an interesting kind of mystery.
That's really interesting.
That, he made these allegations, and then he was arrested and disappeared. I think he was arrested, then he made the allegations, then he disappears.
Oh, yeah, and they had to go to Cleveland and get him.
Yeah.
Yes. So, I remember. Okay.
Yeah, I had a little bit of this worm in my brain when they said Louis Klein, so I looked it back up. But yeah, so he doesn't come back around, but he was the one that alleged, I can show you who was drunk.
Kudos on telling you who's drunk to get the magnifying glass off me and where I really am on the ship.
Yeah, because he was arrested and then he disappeared, so who knows what
obviously
happens.
I belong here. I would not know how to make these accusations.
Yeah.
Very, very sneaky, Klein.
Yeah.
And then on to more. Again, two conversations.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, come on, Senator. I mean, just say, I don't know what I'm talking about. Can I get somebody to help me?
Oh my God. He so wants there to be a way to detect icebergs before you hit them.
Yeah, here we are with the temperature thing again.
And what about sound?
Yeah.
Could you smell them? Just so let it go. There's so much to know.
Yeah.
And we're just going to harp on one thing.
What color are the icebergs?
Yeah, just drive me bonkers.
Although, speaking of, being drunk on the ship and things, I thought it was funny that Moore said to go rustle up the fireman and give him a little bit of rum if he needs it.
The sober shipment. Teetotalers they all are. Yeah, and then, so 2 steamers.
Yeah. What the
schooners
heck?
Or whatever.
So we got a schooner and a... What did he keep calling it? Yeah, the tramp steamer, the tramp.
But then the derelict schooner is maybe not the one that he saw, because he said...
Yeah, because he said it must have been...
If they're sounding their foghorn, they must be on there.
There must be somebody in the have a light on. Yeah, so this is very interesting.
It's just like a lot of boats and ships and stuff all over the place.
Small area, but here we are again with the green light, this mystery ship.
Yes.
That no one can see a name or communicate with.
Right. Then nobody's answering, but they can do a foghorn.
So. And then, it obviously had to be occupied because, or no, did he say the tramp steamer followed him?
Well, yeah, the tramp steamer followed him.
Okay.
But the schooner that he saw, that he had to, steer to get around, blew his horn. So it was
so mysterious.
Yes.
But yeah, they must not have had a wireless on board then, because again...
Oh, right.
As you mentioned, it is a new technology during this time. So, I mean, now it's standard practice, and it's, unthinkable that a ship wouldn't have it. But yeah, they must not have had one, which is so wild.
Wow, yeah. I didn't even think of that. Wow. And the whole ice field, and we've heard about it, and it so makes me cold to hear about it. And then 40 or 50 bergs in the ice field.
And then 40 to 50 or whatever miles wide, and then as far as the eye can see.
Right.
That's crazy.
Yeah. But no, we're just going to ask about
what color.
how tall was the Titanic? Well, wrong. It's this tall.
You said 50. Guess what? 70.
So
gotcha.
Your face. So weird. And then nothing whatever in the way of wreckage.
Yeah, no wreckage, no bodies. So I wanted to ask, and again, I'm glad I said I'm a moron early on, because...
It's established.
Yeah. This is... Sorry, so I'm trying to get the time right. I feel like Senator Smith now. I'm trying to get the time right.
I just want to establish.
Yeah, so that we understand each other here. He's saying this is right after they received the CQD, and then the Titanic went down at, what was it, 2 a.m.?
Yeah, 2:20, I think.
Then this is at 4:30 or 3:25 that they started, or was it the next day? Was it one day later, or was this just a couple hours after?
No, they started, but they just didn't get there for so long.
It just took them that long.
They were in the ice.
Okay. Yeah, I understand they had to go slow, but I just wasn't sure. I'm getting mixed up with my, since it was after midnight, is that Monday morning or Sunday night, or is it?
Spoiler alert, we'll learn more about that in the second half of his interview.
Okay.
So, but it's awfully dangerous for any of these ships that are coming to the rescue. So, bravo. And is it common practice to put a sailor in that foretop masthead? Like, I'm going to just stick you in a bucket and pipe you up there. So, like,
well, that's what the other one did too. Right. Yeah, Captain Lord put somebody in a bucket,
and so did this guy. Just
That's what you got to do. And again, too, he doesn't use glasses, and they don't only on the bridge
because it was such a point of contention.
Yeah, and now all the other captains are like, nah, we don't use those.
Yeah. And,
so that's interesting.
And just because he's saying, Captain Moore, that there was no reason for anybody to be on deck at night, doesn't mean there was nobody on deck.
Yeah, I agree. It's a little.
It's dark up there. How could anybody be there?
But I don't know. There could have been somebody. I agree.
Yeah, I'm not saying I know one way or the other because I don't, but I'm skeptical. I'm just like,
Yeah.
And it sounds, again, like they were doing their best on this ship, getting all their
really
boats
does
swung
sound
out
like
and
it,
everything.
but,
like the Carpathia, they just were
Which
in
was
ice.
good, smart to be ready, but then I am confused, and I know we kind of stopped here, but I'm a little confused about this. One time I'll side with Senator Smith on the, how many passengers do you have?
Oh, right.
And how many, could you just, and then, because it doesn't sound, at first it sounded like they had way too many lifeboats.
Yeah.
You got 160 people, but you can accommodate 1,000. But then, now he's saying we expected to have 2,200 steerage passengers.
Well, I'll get to the steerage. I'm talking about the people. I love that. The steerage is not...
I'm not talking about the cattle.
Passengers, or, not passengers. I'm talking about... I'll get to this. That was like, my mind was...
Oh, yeah.
Are you kidding me?
These two.
I'm coming to the steerage. Just tell me about the passengers. Yeah, but clearly, it was like I don't know if Captain Moore didn't want to specify.
Yeah, because
or if he didn't understand the question.
Yeah, it could be either.
Because even still, when he starts with so you had more, he said, well, no, but he doesn't give detail
he doesn't
until
say
he's specifically asked, But then when he starts to explain, well, in the steerage, I was coming to that. Oh my gosh, he's like a teenager.
Yeah. I mean, he's got to be so tired and so drained at this point, but also, just ask for help or get some cliff notes on the ship.
He's getting info in. People are slipping him notes right and left. Just like he doesn't need that on top of his lack of...
And false witnesses in his office.
Comprehension and how's your arm not broken? And slip me a note that he was drunk and all these... All this, Oh.
We'll give him a little grace, but only a little.
Wow. I think I empathize with him because I am him. So... I'm very, poor guy. Just cut him some slack already. And that's all I have. So we'll see you next time.
Bye. As always, thank you for listening. Please be sure to let us know what you're thinking in the comments or at titanictranscripts@gmail.com. Also, be sure to check out our Facebook page, Titanic Transcripts, for more interesting tidbits and general discussion.